Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Hobby Mules,
a podcast where two men man out and talk about RPGs and war games and board games.
and just tabletop stuff in general.
Yeah, lots of cool stuff.
I'm your host, Josh.
And I'm your other host, Sam.
And today, well, we're doing things a little bit differently, Sam.
We're off the cuff. We're free. We're doing it live.
Fuck it, we're doing it live!
What are we doing live, Josh?
Well, Samuel came over, and we decided we should record a podcast.
We're so funny.
But we didn't take any notes. We just picked our topic. My lip is bleeding uncontrollably.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I don't. It's better if you don't know.
Okay. But yeah, no, we talked about it just a teeny bit beforehand, but that's pretty much it. But simple is good, isn't that right, Josh?
Yeah, less is more, and that can be applied to a lot of things, but today we're applying it to D&D combat, specifically 5th edition D&D combat. But you can apply this to any RPG system, ways to make it streamlined, simpler, more engaging.
Yeah, and generally, that's going to be your best bet, because I'm not going to lie. People can roleplay for hours, right?
Yeah.
You know, even in 5th edition, I don't like the rules for that with persuasion and stuff, but it's easy to do. Combat, though, I think everyone pretty much universally agrees it's a slog.
Out of the book, complete slog. I'd say a 4 PC encounter with 4 enemies. You're probably looking at 30-35 minutes per round.
I'm not going to lie, I was actually, as you said that, when you were thinking about the time per round, I just said 30 minutes in my head for that exact thing. And I was
See, we've played enough 5th edition to know better.
Oh, dude. And here's the thing, too. A lot of RPGs are like that. It's not just 5e. 5e's one of the bad offenders, but a lot of RPGs, it's a slog when you get to combat.
So what better way to start talking about how we can make combat better than to start with initiative?
Okay, Josh, so you're going to go on Etsy and you're going to buy an initiative tracker where you can also have their pronouns on it and their name. Put it in the right order.
You put it right next to your pronoun tracker, obviously, that you have on the center.
Well, no,
of the table.
they make them combined now.
Oh, that's very efficient.
And it's laminated cards. So.
Oh, that's very efficient.
Yeah.
Good. Progress.
Right.
Anyways. So 5th edition initiative. Every individual character engaged in the combat rolls for initiative. You got 10 goblins. That's 10 initiative rolls and scores.
Oh, not forgetting the players also.
Also adding in the players and their companions. It's a lot. It makes for long rounds.
And don't forget, too, there's going to be a player that says, oh, can I hold my action?
Fuck no. I don't allow holding actions anymore. It just complicates everything.
My players actually just asked that the other night, and I said, unless you have, like, an ability like Overwatch, no.
You should say, can you hold your tongue? Got him.
Based.
Alright, but it doesn't have to be this way. And initiative is a very easy one to tweak to get some different results. So,
certainly. Do you want me to start off with the deep end route?
Is that the system you use for initiative? Absolutely.
Yes. So, listen. As a DM, you have a lot to track, but you shouldn't have to track what you don't have to track. So, I just tell the players...
You don't want to be tracking individual monster initiative order.
Right, exactly.
That's hell.
So I tell my players, nice and simple, all right, even or odd, and then I roll a d6 right in front of them. I do all my rolls pretty much right in front of them, so no fudging for this boy.
Which is also why Sam has a high mortality rate between all of his games.
Very true. Oh dear. But but yeah, if they get it right, guess what? All of the player characters go at once. Right away first. If they get it wrong, all the enemies go at once first. And then if they failed, they go second or...
And the players get to go in the order of their choice?
Yeah, no, they determine it among themselves.
So you can do cool combos and teamwork, cooperation.
Yes, it heavily encourages them talking to each other, figuring out what they're all going to do during a round. So they don't have the problem where it comes to their turn and they're like, well, shoot. Let me look at what I can do. Instead, they're all looking together at what they can do. And how they can combo off of each other rather than just staring fish-eyed at the board while waiting for it to be their turn.
Yes.
And it causes a lot of chaos because if they fail initiative, they go. And it's a new round, so I say, all right, even or odd. So they could go twice in a row, or monsters could go twice in a row. Yeah.
Ooh.
So it's pretty nasty.
I like that, though. And that's as simple as it can be, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It's either we all go or they all go.
Mm-hmm. And I like that. It works for us. You know what? It works for us.
I'll have to try that one, because that is peak simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
Simplicity is good. As a DM, you are wearing a lot of hats and spinning a lot of plates.
Mm-hmm.
You want to reduce that mental load as much as possible. And speed things up for the players, too. Because we've all been players in a game of 5th edition, and you are just bored to tears waiting for your turn. And then you roll a 5, you miss, get fucked, come back in 30 minutes.
Well, wait, you can't forget about your bonus action. And then you realize, oh, I don't have a bonus action after 3 minutes.
Well, everybody has like 10 bonus actions now in 5.5, but...
We're not playing that, Josh.
All right. No, we're playing Dark Sign.
That's right. Which, yeah, Josh, do you want to talk about this Dark Sign of yours?
We'll get into that a little bit later.
Because
my initiative system for that is stolen shamelessly from Mothership.
Okay, well, let's hear about this Mothership.
So, similar to yours, everybody, all the player characters, just player characters, make a speed check.
Okay.
If you pass the check, you act before the monsters. If you fail the check, you act after the monsters, and you re-roll this each round.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So the quicker characters get to go first. Slower characters act after the monsters. Simple. A little bit more activation changes than your system, but
Slightly.
Almost identical. Very similar.
Oh, yeah.
And I've found that it works very well.
Mm-hmm.
Rewards fast characters, they get to act first.
Yeah.
And a lucky character could, even the slow guy could get a critical success on his speed check and go before the monster. So that hope is there.
Oh, right. Yeah, it rewards generally having a higher dex or speed or whatever, where my system really doesn't.
Right, yours is just luck. This one is a little more gamey.
A little more gamey. So that's not a bad system at all.
Yeah, it's simple. And in Mothership in particular, it's a game where you're not supposed to be getting into combat much. You want to go before that monster, or it's going to tear you in half.
I think of like Ryan last time we played, because we played Mothership. Josh ran for us, where he's like, "Man, we suck in combat. Why are?"
Ryan wanted to be the badass security guard, but he had a combat stat of 19, so he's only succeeding on his shots less than 20% of the time.
He's more of a Paul Blart, not so much.
Yeah, and I do think his character got ripped in half.
It did, yes.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was. I forget most of that. I forget his side of it. I remember I enjoyed it because I was just a little rat man.
It was fun. It's a good system with a good initiative system.
I remember I liked it.
So those are both pretty simple, not too different than the 5th edition system. You've got some weird ones, though.
Yeah. So there's Troika, which I played a few times, and it has card-based initiatives. So my GM, I think they had a fancy name for it, I forget, but he had a bunch of dry erase cards that he'd just shuffle up, and whatever he drew went. And the thing is, some enemies had multiple cards in, some players had multiple cards in, so it was just... And a new round started whenever he'd draw a card that just said end, and then all the cards would be shuffled back together.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So one person could go, one enemy can go, draws an end card, new round begins, shuffle all back together.
And as a game designer, that opens up a lot of room for special abilities that mess with the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, putting multiple cards in, or maybe cards that let you manipulate it.
There might even be a spell that lets you remove a random card from the deck.
Or like some kind of looking ahead 3 to see what's coming down the pipe kind of stuff. That's cool. I like that a lot. That's very gamey, but that's good.
That could be really cool for like a foretelling spell or an ability.
Yeah, divination. You get to look at like the top 5, so you know what's coming.
That's really good. Troika's a really weird game though, so...
Would it have that kind of abilities in it, or?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
There's like this one spell where you can just create a dome, and you can specify everything that can't penetrate it, including air. So we would just use that every single time to deprive enemies of oxygen and just kill them that way.
Did you play that on stream?
We did.
Okay,
I think Alex ran it.
I watched that one. You guys were like in a weird tower, and each level was different and wacky and
strange.
Just general craziness.
Yeah. Interesting.
How do you spell that?
Troika. It might be based off of The Tale of Troika, which is made by, the two guys from the Soviet Union who also wrote Roadside Picnic, which made the Stalker games.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know how they're related, but I know they wrote the book called The Tale of Troika. Fun fact.
Interesting. That is a fun fact.
I know a lot about Soviet literature.
Very good.
Yes. But yeah, card-based.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other ways. Like, there's probably like chit-based systems where you draw them from a bag.
Oh, yeah.
Which is similar to the cards. Just generally ways you can speed it up that are not every single character gets its own turn to act. And even when I've run in the past too, this one's still kind of tedious, but a little bit quicker, is enemies of the same type activate together.
Oh yeah, all go together. Yep.
So the goblin boss goes on his own turn, but the 10 goblin minions go together.
Mm-hmm.
That speeds it up a little bit, but even then, that one still takes a while.
Right. Still better than most things in 5e.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like most things in 5e, you need to tweak it to make it work good.
Yeah.
All right. So that's initiative. Going into the flow of combat, what are things we can do to elevate the experience? Or what are things we can even strip away to make things quicker?
Okay, so this is going to go all the way back to character creation. So in the system I run, you get almost no starting abilities. And you don't have a lot on your sheet, so you have to get creative. So you have a sword, some chain, and a candle. And you're a fighter, and you can just hit things. That's it.
Or a 10-foot pole.
Or a 10-foot pole. So maybe, okay, let's say the 10-foot pole. Jeepers, why am I doing this tonight? Let's say the 10-foot pole. Yeah. So you have that, and it's like, well, shoot, I'm a fighter. I have this awful short sword, and there is this orc in front of me. I don't think I can really take him out. Can I, like, try to whack him with it? Try to maybe shove it up his nose, right? Orcs have sensitive noses. Can I try to use this to distract him somehow?
Big nostril orcs.
Well, mine are pig orcs.
Oh, porks.
Porks, yes. But yeah, so if you roll really well, of course you distract them, and they spend their turn, trying to chomp it to bits rather than you. Or maybe you roll a critical success and you poke them in the eye, and they're blind in one eye for a turn, and they can't use that for the rest, of the combat, -5 to hit or something.
Yeah, so the idea there is, in 5th edition D&D, say you have 20 different things you can do on your turn. In a strange way, you have all these options. You feel limited to those options.
Right.
In other systems, other game systems, you might have 1 special ability.
Maybe 2 if you're lucky.
Maybe 2. Which means you have to be creative on your turn.
Mm-hmm.
And work with the game master, who should be very eager to work with you, too, to make cool shit happen.
Right.
One time, Sam was DMing D&D. I was a shitty fighter. The ogre just one-shot killed Ryan. They had like an E.T. moment where they slowly touched hands.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that.
And then the ogre killed him. And I knew I had no chance. So on my turn, I didn't use a special ability to escape. I didn't do anything fancy. There was a pit that was 5 feet diameter. I broke my 10-foot pole and kind of leapt down, hoping to catch it on something and to keep me suspended from falling to my doom, but also out of sight of the ogre. And it worked. You made me do some rolls. I can't remember, probably dexterity.
I think I just had you roll a d20, and I'm like, yeah, that's really cool. Add a +1 to it.
Yeah.
I think that was probably exactly what I said, honestly. And of course, I didn't even roll for the ogre doing that, because he succeeded. So, of course, the ogre's only going to look at eye level for things, so he's just like, oh.
Yeah, because he's an unintelligent creature.
Right, like, oh, it's gone. Just looks at what he smashed, just drags the corpse away, mealtime.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, less equals more.
Oh, yeah, and that's such a cool moment. Like in 5e, would you have done that?
No, because I would have been like, okay, well, I'll use my second wind to do this, and then I'll, do my action surge to do 3 more attacks, and I did a ton of damage this turn. That was cool.
It would have killed the ogre in 5th edition,
and not even,
ironically.
You would have, but also it's like, okay, you did a bunch of damage. Is that memorable, though?
No.
It's like, I did a good attack.
I don't remember most of the good attacks I did in 5th
No,
edition.
you don't. But the fun thing with hanging over the pit, that stuck with me. That was a cool moment.
I'm glad, yeah.
Yeah. And again, that wasn't... Nowhere is that on my character sheet. Other than the 10-foot pole, which I reduced to a 5-foot pole.
And thinking on that, Sneevar Ratface, one of your characters, died horribly in that.
Yeah, again, he had 0 abilities and 2 health. Alright? But we still had fun with him. Because it's all then, at that point, it's all about how you roleplay him
I think it was a room with guillotine traps. Yeah,
he got,
and he was greedy, so I think he even knew about them too. He was like, "Fuck it, it's gold.
I can outrun the guillotine."
And the thing is, you got to the other side. It's coming back that got you. I remember that.
Yeah, I got bisected at the waist. Good times. But yeah, so combat specifically,
right.
if your only option on your character sheet is swing sword, you're not just going to swing that sword all the time. You're going to try to be creative. You're going to use that chain. You're going to use those pitons.
Even using the chain, you could can I try to whip the enemy's hand to get them to drop the weapon?
Oh yeah, like I think Legolas style.
Yeah,
when he ties up the cave troll for a little bit.
Yeah.
Super cool.
So many cool things you can do.
That's not an ability written on your sheet though. So how can we apply this to 5th edition?
Well, here's the thing, Josh. If you were to use the whip chain, that would be considered an attack with an unusual weapon. So you need, I think it's Tavern Brawler to make it do 1d4 rather than 1 damage plus strength. Essentially need feet for it to even work and do a minuscule amount of damage.
Of course you need feet for it to work. How are you supposed to do it in a wheelchair? Come on.
The wheelchair feet would be really cool.
Where are we going?
Where are we going?
My recommendation for 5th edition, because it'd be a lot of work to strip all these abilities back. So I'd almost say play a different edition. I would say. Just do yourself a favor and play something else. But if you are insistent, I'd say you'd have more fun at lower levels when the options are more limited.
Oh, 100%. Like what? There's that ancient Wizards of the Coast study that say most campaigns last 6 sessions, I think. And there's a reason for that. It's once you reach like level 5, you're so strong just due to everything that what do you do? Mm-hmm. Lower levels are way more fun.
Exactly. Yeah. First level of 5th edition I actually think is a lot of fun. When you only have like 12 hit points and, 1 or 2 abilities.
Right.
A couple of spells, and you need to think more creatively than when you have, 30 spells, 12 fighter abilities, tons of different weapons, magic items at your disposal. At that point, you may have 40 different options on your turn, but you're limited to those 40, where me and playing 1st edition, I've got as many options as ideas I can come up with.
Oh, yeah. And even in that edition, it's almost, I'd say it's generally more fun and more the dungeon crawly way at low levels. Higher levels, it's a different kind of fun.
Yeah.
Kind of like Dark Souls, actually, where you're suddenly very strong, you've lived a long time, you have all these magic items buffing you.
You're never that strong at Dark Souls.
Oh, even still, they have like a max of 30 hit points. It's the comparative difference. But
speaking of Dark Souls.
Ooh.
Will this be a good time to bring up Dark Sign?
I have one last piece of advice for 5th edition.
Go for it.
Okay. DMs, like I said, if you're insistent, encourage them by making almost non-combat options in combat more appealing. Like, it'll work more often. If they're going to use that chain to whip them, fuck having the Tavern Brawler feat. Just let them make it an easy DC 10 check.
Or maybe don't even make it a roll.
Don't even make it... Oh, yeah, you have 15 strength. You can whip him with it. I'll roll a save to see if he's, like, stunned or something. Make those options more appealing by making them a little easier. Because once the players get a little taste of that, generally that starts to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and this is 5th edition we're talking about, so you do have to curb it a little bit. Like
right. Maybe undead can't be stunned that way, right?
Yeah.
Maybe...
Well, not just that, but if your players are like, I'll start thinking creative. Every time I stab an enemy, I stab it in the eye. It's like, well, you did 2 damage to it. You didn't gouge its eye out.
It needs to be more creative than that.
Yeah, like more.
And maybe it doesn't work every time, too. The first time you think of something really cool and creative, oh, that's really easy. From there on out, it's like, wow.
Yeah, more creative options. So maybe the thief, you're not stabbing people in the eyes all the time, but...
maybe you hamstring them.
Hamstring, or maybe, you reach down, grab some dirt, and throw it in the enemy's eye.
That's awesome.
It's not an ability. You just do it, and the DM decides what happens.
Right. So make those options available. Even have like an NPC, if you don't want to like directly tell them to, have NPCs do stuff like that, and then they'll emulate them.
Yeah, kind of guide them that way, because again, 5th edition, you have all these options that you're kind of locked to. Yes, you could do other things, but rules is written, it's always better to do the powerful things on your character sheet.
Attack with your broadsword twice, end your turn.
You gotta break the cycle.
Break the cycle.
End the cycle of boredom.
Speaking of ending the cycle of boredom, now's the time, Josh. Speaking of Dark Souls.
Very good. Well, Sam, I like Dark Souls.
Really?
I think it's a cool game. Cool series. And did you know there's a Dark Souls RPG that exists officially?
Really, Josh?
And it's a 5th edition supplement.
5th edition is the most Dark Souls role-playing game I can think of.
There's nothing in 5th edition. Okay, they both have swords. Mechanically speaking, they have nothing in common. And when I found out that the Steamforged Games Dark Souls RPG was set in 5th edition, boo.
I couldn't imagine.
Boo.
That's the least Dark Souls thing
It's
ever.
so not Dark Souls at all. And they just tried to port it directly. So souls are just XP. So you get like 1 billion XP. And yeah, just doesn't port well. So, being the rational man that I am, I have, in the past week, written 30 pages of rules.
He's been going insane, by the way.
And created some pretty nifty character sheets, if I do say so myself.
They do look very good.
For kind of, the goal is to make a community-driven Dark Souls RPG that's true to the games, that captures that same feeling, called Dark Sign.
Mm-hmm.
And the combat system in this, you don't get actions, you get stamina, like in Dark Souls.
Okay.
And you can take as many actions as you have stamina. Certain actions cost more, repeat attacks cost more.
Right.
But you have to leave some stamina up, because that's also how you dodge, block, parry.
Right.
So you don't want to leave your guard down. But also everything you do, not just attacking, costs stamina. So you can do that outside the box thinking.
Right.
Pushing enemies over, throwing things, running, pulling levers.
All that good stuff.
Anything you can think of. But it all costs stamina. So in this game, just like in the video game, it's the idea. It's a constant balance between spending your stamina to do cool stuff.
Right.
But not overexerting yourself and then getting, attacked 6 times by a hollow peasant.
Right, you let the enemy mog you.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I like that. It's a big risk and reward system, right? Do you risk it and go all out offense? Or do you do the safe thing and hold back a little bit so you have a lot of defense?
When I can't tell you how many times you get that boss down to a sliver of health, and you just say, fuck it, I'm just going to start swinging my sword. In the video game, you spend all your stamina, and then he kills you. Anyone who's played knows that happens. So you have to be kind of cagey.
Right.
Because even in this game, the enemies all activate on tables. Even the weakest enemy, if they roll high on the activation table.
Oh, you were showing me the peasant stat. Well, hollow peasant, it gets like 5 extra attacks or something.
If the peasant rolls high enough, it gets to, they just start swinging their daggers like crazy. It gets to attack you 5 times. So if you leave your guard down and you think you're safe, there's always that chance that
you're fucked.
You're fucked.
Which is cool.
So that's another combat system.
I was going to say, also looking at them too, a lot of burden off of the DM, because you also have their abilities or their attack types on tables. So you just roll to see what they do.
Yes, so the DM burden is super simple in this one. So the combat or the initiative system, I just almost ripped it from Mothership, where you do a dexterity check. If you pass, you go before the enemies. You fail, you go after. As it stands right now, you don't even re-roll it. So that is the turn order.
Mm-hmm.
That might change. We'll see in playtesting. And then every enemy has an activation table. You roll on it if you want. The DM can choose if they'd like maybe more dramatic moments.
Right.
But the idea is you roll. You see what happens. Generally, the higher the enemy rolls, the more powerful action they take.
Right.
And then they perform that action. And probably what you do is, say you had 6 enemies. Start of combat, you just roll 6 dice and put one next to each enemy.
And that's the action they take.
Yeah, then when the enemies go, you just activate them all back to back.
Right.
Super simple.
And one last thing with that, too, for stats, they don't have a strength. They don't have a dexterity. They don't have a con. They just have one number, right?
Yes, that brings up a good point. In D&D, every single monster is just a little player character that the DM has to control with stats and spells.
And dark vision and languages and
abilities and all these different things. In this, you just have a combat stat.
Mm-hmm.
Which is their strength, dex, their dodge, their block, all those things. Not every enemy has every action available to them or reaction.
Yeah.
And they have different speeds and resistances, but they have one stat, and that is their combat stat.
Mm-hmm.
Also taken from, similar to Mothership, they boil down enemy sheets talking with my hands a lot tonight. You can't see it.
No, that's good. That means you're thinking.
I'm engaged.
You're in game. No, I was doing that earlier while recording too. I was going like this, and there was a point where I just went into my Joker voice. And I was like, I'm actually going insane recording. I'm keeping it in, obviously, but...
Oh, obviously.
And then Miyuki said...
Where are we going?
Where are we going? Makes it easy.
Makes it easy. That's the goal.
And I think we should loop back around, because we should give 5th edition players some advice where we can, because let's face it, that is most of the market. That is most people playing.
If you play RPGs, if you've ever played in your life, chances are you played D&D.
Right. Well, whenever I ask new people, I'm like, oh yeah, what edition do you do? And they go, and I'm like, it's 5th edition, probably. It's the one everyone plays. So Josh, both you and myself, we've run some good 5th edition games. In the sense of combat, at the very least.
I'd like to think so.
Considering what it is, you know?
You gotta change it.
You gotta change it, yes. And so, here's the thing. It's like Josh said earlier, just play a different edition if you want better combat. You can't think like a 5th edition GM, right? You can't think like a 5th edition player. You need to make monster stats that do not look anything like the things you find in any of the monster manuals.
Correct.
That's right. Matt Colville has some great advice for this, but let's take it to even more extremes. So Josh, I know for me, they don't have strength scores, they don't have dex scores, they don't have saving throws. I just have things they're good, neutral, and bad at. So a goblin might get +3 to things he's good at, sneaking, lying, stabbing. Things he's neutral at, like, what's something a goblin's neutral at? So when a goblin does something...
What are goblins just okay at?
I don't fucking know. Whatever a goblin's just okay at, +0. Things goblins are bad at. So lifting heavy objects. Being decent.
And now do you...
-5.
So you don't write what these are, do you?
No, I just say good, neutral, bad.
Yeah, and then on the fly you're like, yeah, a goblin would be good at that.
Exactly,
Oh,
yes.
a goblin, lifting a big rock, yeah, goblin's bad at
Goblin
that.
bad at that, -5.
Climbing a sheer rock wall, goblins are good at that.
Yes. Oh, saving throw against intelligent, goblin bad at that, -3.
I like that.
So simple. From there, attack. What goblin do? Goblin stab just does that damage. Easy. And that's basically it for a goblin. If you're feeling nice, maybe give them a special ability. But here's the thing. Don't write out what the ability does. Just say, like, sneaky bastard. And just say the goblin is adept at getting the surprise on his foes, running away, and, like, cowering.
Exactly. One of the temptations when you just get into 5th edition, you're super excited, you're a dungeon master, you want to make a monster. You feel like you have to copy the exact format, and I've done this before, and it's so
we all have.
Tedious. You want to make one simple monster, and it takes you like 2 hours because you want to copy the format, the wording.
You want to make sure the armor it's wearing is correct to its AC.
Exactly.
It's all these little things.
Oh my god, so much bookwork. You don't have to do that, okay?
Listen, the goblin wearing, I don't know, leather armor, maybe it makes its armor class 14. Is that accurate? I have no fucking clue. But you know what? That's what you have down. That's what it is. Players don't need to know.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Yeah.
Why does it at 14? Because that's what this goblin's armor class is.
Yeah, he's a cool
Next
goblin. Question. And it doesn't have to be complicated at all. It should take up like 3 lines in a notebook for like a simple, shitty goblin.
Yeah, and you can do this in 5th edition. You would just essentially trim down what's there. Like, you can leave the hit points.
Yeah.
Leave the armor class.
Yeah.
Don't worry about any of the stats. You could just boil it down to that good, neutral, bad thing.
Oh, 100%.
Languages, who cares?
Yeah, no, okay.
All that useless
Players
text.
ask, oh, does this goblin speak goblinoid? Yes.
Dark vision, all that stuff. It's like, that's kind of all baked into the cake of a goblin anyways.
Of course.
You don't have to have it written down. You should, if you can't put all the information you need for your enemy on a
note card.
That's
what I use for everything.
Too much.
Some of my note cards are insane for high level enemies, but
I bet they are.
But for most enemies, it's just the front.
They have a back too. Yeah.
Right. And with that too, some more sage advice. Listen, missing in 5th edition sucks. Mm-hmm. Generally, try to make armor classes lower and hit points a little higher. Yes. It evens out.
That is a general game design thing. It just feels better to hit and know you did something than to completely miss and do nothing.
Yes. So from here, make boss encounters the most memorable part of the session. Fucking cool. So one thing to begin right off the bat, right? Cool boss encounters, generally they have little minions, right? That act with
Yeah,
them.
a
So
lot of them
the
do.
goblin boss has a lot of goblins.
Obviously, yeah.
So
Tons of goblins.
Tons of goblins. And something you can steal from 4th edition D&D. I know it's not liked, but I would honestly love to try running it one day. It looks like it's built for... It's literally the exact opposite of 5th edition. It is made for fighting, and it has some great combat rules.
Yes.
Genuinely.
I picked up the 4th edition monster manual.
Did you?
Yeah.
Their monster manual is fantastic.
Just to look at all the cool abilities for the monsters. They're way more outside the box thinking than just the dragon uses its legendary action to fly 20 feet.
Yeah, that stinks.
Sounds rather boring.
It does. So, we should genuinely try playing that. That's an edition I'd love to try.
That'd be neat. It gets a bad rep, but from what I've heard, it was an incredibly tactical system.
Yes.
With super cool combat rules.
Yes. So, those combat rules, steal them. I believe they're called minions. They have a normal monster stat block, but they have 1 HP.
Yes.
So, you can do so many cool things. So, the Goblin Boss has 50 goblins. Each has 1 HP. Maybe you make it so your fighter's attacks always cleave and kill all the goblins in front of them. You can do all these cool rules with them.
Some Minds of Moria stuff. You're killing multiple goblins with each swing of the sword. You're just mowing them down.
It feels awesome. The players will love it.
If the players are the right level.
Right.
Well, probably wouldn't throw a bunch of minions at level 1 players.
Maybe the goblin would have 7 minions. Right, for a party of 4 and then himself.
Okay.
But goblins are a little boring to talk about. Let's talk about cool things. Josh, do you want to talk about your cool one?
Yes. So, I got this, again, Matt Colville. He gives great DM advice. I think he's one of the best out there, if not the best out there.
He is genuinely fantastic.
He came up with a system, very simply put, called villain actions. They're not your legendary actions. Those are usually lame. Leave them in the book.
Yeah, I use a legendary action to pass my saving throw and invalidate whatever the hell you were doing.
But you have to track how many legendary action points you spent this round. More bookkeeping.
Oh, right. Layer actions also exist.
They do?
Do you not know layer actions?
Vaguely. I know that they exist. That is it.
They're like legendary actions, but only if the monster's in their lair. So it's just more. It's more legendary actions.
More!
Biz more!
Anywho.
We're rich.
Oh. Where are we going?
Where are we going?
Villain actions. Okay. Basically, the idea is the villain has some cool things that you came up with. 3 is an arbitrary number, but it works pretty well. And at certain points in the combat, the villain does the thing. Whether it's its turn or not, usually in between turns, it just does a cool thing. So I had my players, it was a fun little one-shot where they were in hell. And they had to fight this big demon that was caging all the souls of the damned. So very Dark Souls-esque, if you're noticing a pattern here. And his boss arena was full of cages, full of zombies. Hanging from the ceiling, in piles on the floor, everywhere.
And that's such a cool description, walking into the room, describing
the moans of the damned. They're all reaching out, trying to grab the players. And then the demon leaps in. Obviously, big open room. It's a boss battle. They all knew it was coming. He had 3 villain actions I gave him that he would do at different times. 1, he would just pick up a cage on the ground and huck it at the players. And then when it hits the ground, it bursts open and the zombies come out. So now, and they were minions. 1 hit point.
Yeah.
But they would just tie them up and get in the way. He could also stomp his big feet and cages would fall from the ceiling, doing the same thing, but more of them.
Mm-hmm.
And he could pick up a cage by one of the chains and spin it around. I'm spinning my arm right now.
I was about to say, we're doing a bunch of hand motions tonight. Tonight's the night.
We're just passionate, man.
We're passionate. We're getting excited. We're doing, we're having a little tism spasms.
But anyways, he could spin the cage around his head and they had to do like a dex check within 20 feet or the cage would slam into them and knock them over and deal some damage.
That's neat. That's awesome.
So 3 unique abilities that were not just the monster does his multi-attack and attack 6 times. And this
maybe
one
uses a spell, Josh.
No, maybe it is a spell. This one does a D10, or just D10.
Does the exact same amount of damage as the sword.
Yeah.
It's just magical. It's reskinned.
But it does an extra D5 fire damage.
Okay, that's pretty unique. But no, that cage stuff, that's freaking awesome. That's intimidating, too. Like, how much damage is that cage going to fucking do if it hits me?
It just makes it much more cinematic than just it runs up and attacks.
Oh, 100%.
And I think after he did them, it was a decently long fight, but the players were engaged the whole time. He could start repeating them
Right.
later on. It wasn't like a one-time use thing.
Right.
But most combats, especially in 5th edition, they're pretty quick.
Right. So...
And that's another thing. Your monster can do them in between turns whenever you decide. So it's not going to get alpha struck because it rolled bad on initiative and then dies before its first turn.
Right. There wasn't an upcast fireball 4 times hitting it.
Yeah, then the fighter gets like 9 attacks on him and each one does...
Okay, that's hyperbole. Probably 8 attacks.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's much more
I have
engaging.
brought great shame to my ancestors.
I agree.
Well, Samuel, does that just about wrap it up?
I think that does. We could prattle on and on about this, but I think this is a fine place.
Basically, there's just a general vibe in philosophy of combat that once you start applying to your games, however you choose to do it, you will notice the combat becoming more enjoyable.
Exactly. Everyone will.
Yeah, and you'll do it different. Everybody does it different. I do it differently than Sam.
Sam does it differently than you.
Yeah.
What if I started referring
Sam does
to
it
myself?
better than you.
Sam is always better than you.
Unless you're me, in which case me is better than...
Me better than Josh. Josh better than Josh.
Schmoft.
Fuck Schmoft.
God, I had to bring him up.
Well, Josh, let's go to the hobby corner. Josh, what have you been working on?
I've been autistically, single-minded, focused every single free second I have working on the Dark Sign RPG. Like I said, I started a week ago. I've written 30 pages of rules, lots of random tables, just trying to port things in from the game and establish some kind of balance, and then making the character sheet. That has been it. No painting, no YouTube editing, no podcast editing, just Dark Sign.
Yeah, I remember you first showed me it like 5 days ago, and since then, like...
There were like 6 pages then.
The page count... I think you're at like 14 pages or something.
Yeah, I remember I was like, Sam, I'm up to 14 already. Now it's at,
something crazy.
Now it's at like 29.
14 already. Yeah, no, now it's absurd. It's very cool, though. And the character... We made characters before this.
Yeah, just to try out I just made the character sheets today. We tried them out.
Yeah, and I gotta say, it looked a little intimidating at first due to all the grids, but honestly, just simple explanation. It's very, very simple and intuitive. Basically, once you understand what you're looking at, it's easy. Yeah,
there's a lot of empty grids that you fill out as you level up.
Oh, yeah.
But you when you start, you fill out like, I don't know, 25% of it.
Oh, yeah. No, it's incredibly simple. I like...
Thank you.
You stole some things from Mothership, too, like having your stats connect to like what they modify.
Yes. So when I was writing the rules for it, my wife said it reminded her of algebra, because it kind of is. But to make it as simple as possible, the stat draws a line to all the different aspects of your character it affects. So your vigor, how healthy your character is, draws a direct line to your max HP. And then right on that line says vigor times 2. Max equals max HP.
Yeah.
So even without reading the rules, you should be able to more or less figure it out.
Oh, 100%. And you have like plenty of slots here for different kinds of armor, so you don't have to erase and redo things. Same for weapons, same for spells, items. It's very nice. Do we want to briefly describe each character we made? Because we made 2 characters in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, so it was also very quick to do, because you just roll down the line.
Oh, I love rolling. It's a ton of rolling, which is fun.
Lots of rolling, lots of every single class has different values of dice you roll for the different stats. So it's, if you like tables and you like rolling lots of D10s, I forgot to mention, it's a D10 system. Mm-hmm. All 10-sided dice and percentile dice.
It's cool. Long story short, it's very cool. Oh,
shucks. Yeah, who did you make, Sam?
So, yeah, I made a pyromancer named Mattis Gackus. I love that there's a little appearance tab right here, too, for writing it down. I have written down fat, purple nose, blood pooling, and small eyes. He make fireball. He hit people with hatchet. He live in swamp.
Yes, he's a pyromancer.
He is a pyromancer. He's great at dodging, but not good at blocking.
Yeah, and by great at dodging, you mean like you do it 1/3 of the time.
Well, a little over 1/3. I'd say maybe 3/6 of the time.
As long as they don't have any
Which is
dodge
1/3
modifiers on their attacks.
Oh boy, less than 50%.
Very good.
Oh man. What about you, Josh?
Me, I just rolled up a knight and I named him Garvin.
Mm-hmm.
And in typical knightly fashion, he's, big bag of hit points, decent armor. I rolled pretty abysmally on everything else. Except for his dexterity, it's not bad. So maybe he'll be more of like a knight with a scimitar.
Yeah,
kind of thing. So that'd be kind of cool. Because you start with these stats, but when you level up, you can go any which way you choose. Just some classes start off better than others at certain things.
Right. And I like, too, something, if you don't mind me interjecting.
Absolutely.
So stats tell a story, right? In my game, I just make the players roll straight down. They don't get to choose where their stats go.
Same thing with this.
So same thing with this, but you get to roll more dice if your class is generally better at something. But even then, it's swinging.
It's swinging. My knight has 23 strength, so he's hitting with his sword less than a quarter of the time.
Right. So that tells a story, though. His dex is really high compared to everything else. So what does that say about his past?
Yeah, it was kind of... I rolled these up, too, before I came up with his appearance. So it's like, okay, he's a knight, but he's not very strong, but he's pretty dexterous, so he's lean.
Right.
A lean, long face, dirty long hair.
Yeah, you also said it's a certain color, blonde.
Blonde hair.
That's strange. You were looking at me when you wrote that.
It's like I'm looking in a Sam-sized mirror.
You should note down he has a patch jacket. That's his armor.
Oh lordy! Well, that's been eating up all of my time, and until my autistic, single-minded determination wears off, it will continue to eat up my time.
Autism is a superpower, Josh.
Yeah, I'm not actually autistic.
I'm not either.
We just act that way.
Anyone who plays D&D could be classified as autistic in my mind.
That's fair. especially 5th edition. Sam, what are you up to?
Well, besides sewing patches on my jacket, I've been actually painting a model that is mine. It's not for a company. I'm not doing other things. I've been painting a model. I've also been playing a lot of Fear and Hunger, which inspired this model. So they have these cool things called yellow mages. They're an enemy type, but you get to play as one in the second game. And their whole philosophy is they draw on the gods for power, but they don't worship the gods. Their whole philosophy is the world will always devolve into chaos at some point. So embrace the chaos and use it to gain as much power for yourself as possible. All yellow mages know they're only with their master to gain their knowledge and then fuck off. Their master knows that's what their apprentice is going to do, so they try to work him to death.
Very Sith-like.
It's very Sith-like. And because of that, it's cool. They have this ritual dance they do that really ups their magical power, so they're dancing during battle to help, channel stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just such a cool concept. So it's this Reaper Mini called a Skin Saw Cultist. And it has these weird, sharp, it's very angular. It has very triangular robes. Sharp edges. It's wearing a mask. It has a really small sword. And, underneath it's wearing a skin suit. So it's just, you'll paint that black. So it's just bright yellow, kind of a black skin suit underneath and a cool mask. And that's going to be...
that's neat.
Yeah, and it's going to be coming to my game very soon.
Ooh.
There's already a little foreshadowing for it, so...
Very exciting.
I'm excited, yeah.
It's good. It's good that you've got some minis on the paint table.
It's... I think I said it last time. I've been writing this script for over half the summer, and I got to a point where I said, I'm not doing any painting until I get this done. And of course I broke that rule, but I just couldn't focus because I'm like, I should be doing that. The script writing's done. I'm recording it now. So I can finally say, it's time to paint. Time to paint. And of course, speed paint yellow because... Well, not speed paint. It's actually a contrast paint. It's a very good one. It's like Nalzar yellow. It's a dirty yellow. It's a very good yellow.
I have one yellow speed paint, and it is phenomenal.
Contrast paints in general for yellow, they did something right. Really right.
You slap that over white, and it just looks... Oh. So good.
So good. But yeah, so it already looks incredible.
Sweet.
And we'll do some blending with speed paints, the old version 1 ones with some red at the very tips of the angular points of his robe. Get a little blending there.
Yeah, add a little accent color.
Yeah.
On the points of interest. Very cool.
All right. Well, I think we should sign off with that, Josh.
Well, ladies and germs, for an episode with no notes, I think that turned out pretty okay.
We went Insano style.
Yeah, we're passionate, man. We got ideas.
We have hope in us.
Thoughts.
We're not...
Hopes and dreads.
We have one class ability each.
Yes. It's harsh. It's harsh. Well, folks, I'm Josh.
And I've been Sam.
And we've been
Hobby Mules.
We'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.